All right. All right. All right. All right. Blake, can you hear me? I can
There
see.
it is.
Hey,
What's up, dude?
how you doing, man?
Good. There we go.
Sweet. We can
What's the
hear
word, my
that
friend?
up and everything.
Well, yeah, very limited space in the house, and so it's all crammed into one room.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
You can't see the other side of my room, but it's sound.
So you live in two different places. Still
Um,
happening, or some of the courses you were talking about how you live in your cousin's house 6 months out of the year.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know if we're gonna do that next year, but maybe. So it's it's not far. It's like only 5-10 minutes from here.
Right.
It's not a lot. It's not a huge deal to. But you know how it is with studio equipment. You gotta try to load it up and get your amps and your speakers so
I
they don't
know.
hurt. And in his house is not acoustically treated. So every time I go in there, I've got to throw up all these acoustic treatments on the
Yeah.
wall room
Yeah.
every single time.
I saw that video. I felt for you, dude. That's a
Yeah,
lot of work to do it multiple times a year, too.
yeah, it is. But I'm learning that we overcomplicate things a lot of times, and I think a lot of times people put off putting acoustic treatment up because they think it needs to be really perfect or it needs to look really good. And if that's important, yeah, that's if it's got to look really good. But honestly, you can kill 90% of those reflections and problematic frequencies.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah. No, that's something that I love how mobile you are, and
Yeah.
like it's just so encouraging to see and to hear like the stuff that you make on the road with a laptop is just so awesome and like it's so encouraging.
Isn't it fun?
Yeah, it's so great. I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It is, man. Hey, Chelsey.
Hey guys, how's it
What's
going?
up?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So, Blake, tell us a little bit about your kind of how you got to where you are. I know you're a family man. You got kids. You got,
Yeah, 6-month-old's right here on the floor, right next to me right now.
by the way, go Bears! They kicked ass.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I've been playing music for a long time, and then I found a site called Hit Record, and it's just an online collaborative deal. There's plenty of them out there, but it's a production company, and so any productions that they make that you're involved in, you get paid for it. So I've met a ton of people through that site, and yeah, the last really 2-3 years have been, hey, I need to work on making better stuff.
That's cool.
So, yeah. So it's kind of been, it's my journey in a nutshell. Very short, but it's been a blast, man. I love it.
You're in Chicago, I assume, or
No, I'm actually I live in Oklahoma. I was born in St. Louis and moved down here. I work for a church here in southern Oklahoma. So,
oh, no kidding. Are you like a praise and worship leader or something?
I'm the youth guy. So I hang out with teenagers all the time. Yeah.
Oh, cool. What kind of church?
Oh, it's a Church of Christ. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Now, a lot of Church of Christ don't believe in instruments, right?
Yeah, it's so stupid. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I love the people in this community, so that's why we're here. And I'm trying to side hustle some music stuff.
Oh, very cool. What city in Oklahoma?
It's called Ada. It's really small, about 20,000 people.
Near
South of Oklahoma City by about an hour.
Okay. I grew up in Dallas, so it's in the same area of
Cool.
country.
Yeah. My wife grew up in Denison, Sherman.
Okay.
So, yeah, man, right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't often like to tell people that I work for a church because it's there's a lot of stigmas attached to that.
Yeah, there could be, sure.
So, but
You're in the buckle of the Bible Belt,
Oh,
right?
gosh, yes. So much. I'm trying to fight that stereotype so hard.
I hear ya. Yeah, I played drums for 20 years for churches. Anyway, well, that's awesome, man. It's so
Let's talk
great.
about music, though.
What's that?
Let's talk about music.
All right. Chelsey, what's going on with you? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm trying to get to these more, but I'm doing well.
Cool.
Sam just signed one of my songs yesterday, so I'm really stoked on that.
Who did?
Catch the Moon.
That's the
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, and I just released my first single on Friday for my solo stuff. So I'm just kind of like testing the waters there a little bit. Feels weird.
Did you pitch for a particular brief that came in through Catch the Moon?
I did, and they didn't actually want it for that. And then I posted about the song being released in the group, and they were like, "Oh, we love this song. We want to sign it." So it's funny, like, you never know.
Yeah.
I thought they hated it because they gave me some feedback at the event, and they were like, "If you add like some synth," and I was like, "Well, it's already mastered, so I'm not going to add synth to it."
Yeah. I found that true too. Sometimes I think they just need another listen, and then they're like, oh, "This is pretty good."
Yeah, especially a listen in a setting where it's not like in a big room with lots of people and you're listening on a tiny little shitty speaker. So
Yeah. Like on a laptop, like most of the.
I know.
And you just can't get a full sound. I mean, I understand, they're inundated with so much music on a day, and their team's got to be.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
They're probably like with trepidation, like sending out these like submission things like, I'm going to post this, but oh my God, we're going to get like an onslaught of crazy.
Yeah.
And they do, yeah. They have a lot to go through. And the other thing about it, is I love those girls over there. They're just such awesome people.
Yeah.
But a couple of them, they don't have a long history of listening to music.
Yeah.
They're half my age.
I know.
Yeah.
And so you got to kind of realize, and that's kind of true. Wherever you go, you're going to have people that, they'll hire interns to listen to stuff. And you're like,
Yeah.
Somebody with a little bit more experience on their ears, but you got to work with, But Blake, do you have a kid in your room right now?
I do have a kid. He's hanging out with the dog.
Oh, can we see him?
Yeah. This is Jack.
Oh,
Jack.
hi, Jack.
This is life at the Earnhardt house. We've got two girls, 7 and 4, but their mom went to teach preschool, and 7-year-olds in kindergarten. So
are you a stay-at-home dad, or do you also work?
Yeah, so my job is super flexible, and it's really awesome to be able to just kind of take off a morning if I need to, which she's teaching preschool just 3 days a week. So I'm here from like 8 to noon-ish on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. And when he takes a nap, I get to do music stuff. So that's fun. But yeah, it's fun. It's a busy, crazy life, and whenever I can fit music in, what I'm doing.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so kind of, my mind is a little blown that what you posted that's not what I expected from you. But it was really good. I loved that piece.
Yeah.
And do you listen to a lot of rap?
I met the vocalist that did the first verse. Actually, all the guys that are on that track are from Hit Record, just guys I've got to know. And I started.
That's not you singing then, any?
No, that's not me singing.
I was like, I am just like.
No, I did the instrumental, and I was like, hey, you guys need to jump on this. And then they just blew it up. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's really cool. But yeah, I met a lot of people through that site that are super talented, and we're just continuing to collaborate off site and try to navigate the sync world and figure out and get better at everything we're making. So,
well, I got to say, rap and hip hop is so in demand in the sync world, and there's very few people that submit for those categories, and the ones that do get submitted for those categories are usually not of very good quality.
Yeah.
So you have a small pool you're working with. You've got some great. I mean, if you're good at that, which you are, do it, man. That is bread and butter.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'm enjoying it. I haven't met the Julianne. Hello.
Hey, Julie.
Good to see you.
We can't hear you. Hold on.
There. Okay, I got it.
Okay.
I had a Word doc covering my button. I had to. Hi, I'm Julie.
Hey.
I'm from Pittsburgh. How you doing?
Good to meet you.
I teach kinder music part-time, so I'm used to seeing kiddos that age.
I know, I'm trying to train them up right.
There you
Put them
go.
in front of a keyboard early. That's awesome. How long have you been doing that?
Maybe 7 years. I did 16 years public school music before that.
Wow, that's awesome.
I'm older than I look.
You do not look old.
But
That is an awesome mission. I love that.
That's an exhausting mission. Part-time is better.
Yeah. So the elementary music?
I did high school choir, middle school choir, and then elementary, and now I'm doing babies. So unless someone invents a prenatal class, I can't get younger students to help.
Do you have any theories about playing music for children in the womb?
Playing music for children always is yes.
Yes. I love it.
They don't need the headphones, though. They can hear without the
They
headphones.
can hear, right? Yeah. Cool. Well, that's awesome.
Well, guys, what would you like to talk about? Is there any questions or any subjects you guys want to kind of, I don't know, kick around and discuss?
What is your average timeline you expect when you send your stuff to your mixing guy? Like, what's a typical turnaround time that you would get a master back?
A master or mix?
A final mix, whatever their part of the process.
Yeah. So a mix, typically, because they're taking all the tracks that I give them. Once I give them all the tracks and they are working on it, I usually, honestly, I'm usually like a week, sometimes 2 weeks. I have found, and I made a little video about this a while back, but I can't remember where it is, that if you use a plugin like that Listen To plugin that I highly recommend, and either have your mixing engineer license it, I think it's like $15 a month or something like that, or license it for them and give them a license for it or whatever. But they can put it on their master bus and schedule a time to where you say, listen, I want to schedule, Thursday night with you for 2 hours, and I want to listen in while you're mixing. But I usually let them do their thing first. I give them kind of, give them a week to work on their mix for a while, on your mix for a while. And so they can, because they may come up with things that you would have no idea first. And if they're a creative, hey, Sem.
Hey, Zion.
So if they're a creative person, then they're probably going to have some great ears for this. That's why you're hiring them. You want to give them a shot at that. But then after you get that first mix back, say, cool, this is, I have some edits, but I'd love to schedule a time with you where I can just give you quick feedback and we can knock this thing out. I always, you kind of tease them with the proposal that we can get this done quick, because they don't want it on their plate, for a long time either. They want to get it done. They want to get paid. They want to move on. So I have found it to be an amazing process when I schedule usually about 2 hours. They get into their studio, they load it up, they put that on their master bus, and they send you the stream link. And I can send you guys the link again to this program. It's just a super tiny plugin. You drop on your master bus, and then when they are mixing, it's uploading it in a really high quality version. it's an FTP site. So it's putting it up onto a server somewhere, and then you're streaming it in real time. And so you can listen and be like, okay, vocals are too hot there. And I'm just typing usually. I'm just in a chat window. And I'm just like, oh, awesome. Ooh, I love that part. And I don't try to inundate them with every single second, but, I give them 5 or 10 minutes and say, hey, could you da-da-da-da-da? And it's like, yeah. And then, and you got to figure out how to communicate with them the best that they want to communicate. They may have a little bit different way of doing it. But man, it saves huge amount of times, because otherwise you go back and forth and back and forth and back with an email. Did you get it? Okay, cool. Here's my list of things. Okay, I'm going to send it to you. Did you get it? And it's not a fun process.
No. Okay. Because I was the things that I sent out a couple of things recently. I was like final polish, master, whatever, and I thought they'd be done for that July event.
Yeah,
they're still not done. So I'm like, now granted, dude was putting in a new board, and he had to do songs for Willie Nelson and Van Morrison. I thought he was lying, but he wasn't.
Oh.
They were touring, and they were in the area of I don't know, anyway, but I was like, oh, you weren't just joking. But so I was just trying to get like, what's a standard turnaround time? And he agrees this has taken a long time, but I'm trying to decide, do I need to find a not so busy guy, or what's expected, I guess. So
yeah.
That's helpful. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. My biggest criteria for a mixing engineer is easy to work with. I would rather use an easy to work with person than some person that's, mixed for blah, 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 blah. Because it just, I used to use a mixing engineer here in town, and I love him dearly. He's a friend of mine. He used to be a drummer. He was the drummer for Alice Cooper for years. He was on the road, and he's kind of one of these old hair band guys. And he's now a Christian mixing and producer. And he's very good. But I got to be careful what I say, because
yes, be careful.
There's a certain amount of ego you got to stroke every time you talk to him. And I love him to death. He's a friend of mine. But I get tired of stroking the ego. It's like, dude, I'm your client. Let me just tell you what I want. He's like, why would you want that? What are you, crazy? That's too, whatever. So anyway, finding somebody that just goes, cool, I would have done it this way, but absolutely, let's do it your way, and just because you have to be in the driver's seat in this process, unless you want them to. I mean, there is some people that just say, I don't want to mix it at all. I want you to make all the decisions. But most producers don't do that. This is your baby. You've worked on this song for, sometimes months and months and years sometimes. And to hand it off to somebody that's not going to respect it, or, may throw something on it, like, you're ruining it.
Yeah, because really what I wanted is like, I've micromanaged this for months. Now just fix all of my problems.
Yep. And they can't read your mind. It's a hard place. You got to remember, it's a hard thing for them to do. And in the sense that they're trying to pick up on a process that you have studied and thought about for months, or whatever it is, weeks or whatever. And you're trying to get them to know your mind and then be better than you. So, it's kind of an impossible task you're trying to make them do. That's why you want somebody with great ears, with great musicianship that is tasty in their choices. And I've used a bunch of mixing engineers, and the ones I keep coming back to are the ones that are just the easiest to work with. They're not the best, but I just enjoy working with them.
And this has been fairly, I haven't run into a lot of ego. It was just when he threw in those names, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I got a session with Eddie Van Halen later.
Sure you do. Oh man, have you guys anybody else ever used a mixing engineer?
Yes. Yes.
Sim, you have? Okay. And how's your experience been?
My experience was very good. I didn't know a lot about mixing at that moment.
Uh-huh.
but he also taught me a lot.
Oh, good.
I was supposed to take over his studio, but then I met my wife and moved to another town.
I see.
So I didn't do that.
I'm actually there's a guy on Fiverr named Bo Vallis, and there was a track that a buddy of mine and I made, and I think we spent maybe $300 for a mix and a master. It was pretty quick, and I know there's a lot of it's kind of, eat the fish, spit out the bones, weed through all the noise on a site like Fiverr, but he was really open to all the stuff that we were saying, and it was an online communication, so the timing, the guy has to have like a team of people working, because it was unreal how fast he turned around and was just there to answer us. So it was great. I had a great experience.
That's great.
On Fiverr.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And maybe he's not one person, but
it's got to be a team of people.
A few persons impersonating the same one.
Yeah. And we tallied it up. And I think out of like 2,000 reviews, he got 5 stars on all of them. And everybody that had something to say was pretty amazing. So 100% satisfaction was kind of staggering.
Yeah.
To me.
And I think spell that last name.
Vallis.
Is he maybe the Dread Pirate Roberts? Is that what you said? There's multiple.
I don't know.
Sounds like he hired some Russians to get that score that good.
Yeah.
That's funny. So the website's called Fiverr, Fiverr.
Fiverr.
Is it like,
and it's basically
Fiverr.com.
Yeah, anybody can get on there and offer a service, and Fiverr's just kind of the medium.
Yeah. I've used them before. I think I got
from all kinds of different stuff, any kind of art form.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, but he's really solid, and I think for like 20, 30 extra bucks, he'll do like a 1 or 2 day turnaround.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know what we should do? And I'm going to do this right now. Is let's create a shared spreadsheet of mixing engineers and contact info. Would that help you guys?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. I'm going to do that because this comes up a lot of, who do you know, what's going on.
Well, Zion.
And post it, and you guys can add to it, okay?
Zion.
Yeah.
Don't you mix, you never mix yourself, or?
Well, I'm doing that now, but
yes.
I used to always use a mixing engineer, but for my new EP, I'm mixing and mastering it all myself. I'm going to try at least.
Yes. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's
not that hard.
Well, depends on what you're doing. Depends on
your worst boss is yourself, right?
If you can be such a good producer, then you also can learn how to mix.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
Mix and master. You'll be like the quintuple threat artist.
There you go.
New class.
Quintuple threat. I'm going to buy that domain.
There you go. Lock it down.
I already bought it just now.
Man. All right. Who has done some grooves in the last couple weeks? Who's created just some quick grooves?
Yeah.
I did.
All the time.
You? Okay.
Yeah.
Tim, have you done any grooves?
I'm creating grooves all day long.
Okay. In your head, or are you putting them down on paper?
On my phone.
Oh, okay.
But I have a lot of good synthesizers and also good DAW on my phone. So.
How about
you? And then when I want to finish it, I put it on my computer in Logic.
Okay. Are you saving any of these off into a little folder somewhere?
Yes.
Okay. Can you share that with us?
Not now, but I will. Maybe you noticed I was changing from screen.
Yeah, we saw 3 of you a minute.
Yes, I'm having a little bit of trouble with my computer. So.
Oh, okay. All right, Chelsey, how about you? Have you done any?
No, I don't. Sorry, my Zoom is giving me a little trouble right now, but
okay.
You guys are cutting in and out. I don't have any. That will be my next step.
All right. I just want to encourage you guys to dig into that, and because it's probably out of everything in this course, it's one of the things that's probably going to help you the most, because it forces you to, 1, get to know the equipment you've got.
Yes.
2, it forces you to put those things you're learning into practice, right? 3 is it helps you not be afraid of clicking buttons and pushing knobs, you know?
Yes, because you're just creating the groove, nothing big.
Yeah, nothing big, and there's no wrong answer.
You're not afraid to do something.
Exactly. You can do, there's no wrong answer to any of it. Another great thing out of it is that you'll come up with ideas and stuff that will end up being songs that you're going to be able to finish. You know, you're going to flesh it out and you're going to create a song, and then suddenly that wouldn't have happened if you hadn't started with a groove. And it's also an opportunity for you to start putting yourself out there and sharing yourself with other people, which is humbling. It's hard to do because you're going to want to show your best, right? We all want to put our best foot forward, but sometimes it's really important just to say, hey, this is who I am. This is the authentic me at this moment on a Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And this class, we're big enough to handle that. And there's going to be some terrible stuff. And that's totally fine. That's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. Because if you can't do it.
How do you usually start your grooves? With the drum? Or?
Yeah, for me, I love usually being inspired by another song. So typically I'll go, what have I been listening to right now? And for some reason, like I've been listening to Kygo a lot, which is this.
I know him.
Yeah, it's like a EDM sort of chill EDM. Tropical house. Tropical house. Is that what they call that?
Yes, that's what they call it, because the guy I'm working with is also famous, but I can't say his name right now, but he is in the same style of music.
Oh, okay, interesting. What'd you say, Julie?
I said he remixed the U2 song recently. That's how I know.
Yeah, he did.
I find a lot of other bands because they work. Anyway, never mind.
So I really like his style. I think his sensitivities are amazing. However, a lot of his stuff sounds very similar. I mean, like one song after another. But I like it all. But it's very, very similar. Anyway, I've been listening to him and just different people in sort of that tropical house or chill pop genre. And it'll inspire me. And I'll say, ooh, I like that sound, or I like that groove or that beat. And then I'll start putting that. Sometimes I start by just replicating the bass line, replicating that drum pattern, and then I quickly divert into my own thing. And then suddenly I've got a really cool groove I never would have come up with if I hadn't been starting from an inspiration and then bringing that into my own wheelhouse. I like to do it that way, but you don't have to. You can start off. Sometimes I'll get a new plug-in, like a new drum set or something that it's just I want to dig into and I want to play with. So I'll pull it up, or that program by Output, Exhale. I like that a lot. It's like these little vocal chops, and that's really inspiring to me. And I'll just put some vocal chops in, and they'll just chop around, and then I'll put a beat behind it, and then a chord progression. Sometimes it's not electronic. I pull out my little ukulele, and I'll just start playing chords, and I'll find a chord progression I like. or I'm in the shower for some reason.
Playing ukulele.
Hard to guess.
Playing your small ukulele.
Shower you.
Sorry.
So anyway, you get hot in here.
I know you guys have talked about Splice in the past. I don't know if anybody else is on. I love Splice. Just simply, if nothing else, for inspirational purposes. Find a really cool sample, and you got to sift through the stuff on there that's not great and all, but find a cool sample and just chop the hell out of it, and then try to just build off of it. I love Splice for that.
Yep, exactly. I did a call yesterday with one of the students. She's not in here right now, but it was one of these a consultation call, which I'll do sometimes. One of the things that really came out in the call was she was very tentative, and she's very new at producing, but she was very tentative about clicking on things. And I get it. When you first start out on something, there's sort of a respect, like, I don't know what this is.
Some people have the opposite.
Well, maybe so. Yeah.
They start clicking without knowing what they're doing.
But one of the things I had to really emphasize with her is, don't be afraid. You can't break it. I get you. I could break it. But when you're first starting off and you've got a brand new DAW and you have a session pulled up that's nothing, it's just empty tracks and just an empty canvas, just start throwing things on it and click away. And then you're going to find that you're going to get frustrated. But that's that learning process. If you don't get frustrated, you can't get past the frustration. And so I'm always, really encouraging you guys to push yourself to the limit. Push it right up to, you want to find that amazing effect that Selena Gomez did on that last song. Try to do it. Just go for it. You probably won't do it, but just
Command Z, right? Command Z is your friend. Command Z, undo. You can undo anything that you've changed.
Exactly.
I use that function so often that, like, if I spill a glass of water in real life, like if I spill a glass of water, I'm reaching for Command Z to try to undo what I just did.
Yeah,
man.
It's interesting.
You have no idea what you're gonna.
Yeah.
What sound you might create.
Exactly. And you get these happy accidents. I've been really digging into learning how to paint, do some oil paintings. I don't know why. It started because YouTube put a Bob Ross painting in my YouTube feed.
Bob Ross, yeah.
And he's hysterical. He's got this big perm.
I used to watch him every morning on TV in Holland.
And he talks like this. He's
a nice little tree, and then a happy little cloud.
Hysterical. So I watched it sort of out of being funny, but then I was like, man, this is amazing. He takes this blank canvas, and in 30 minutes, he's got this dreamlike,
it's really beautiful
created. And I just love that idea. So I'm trying to learn to paint, and I'm terrible at this, but I love it. And every time I try to start, I am always like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But I guarantee every time I do it, I'm learning a little more. I'm pushing myself a little more. And I'm now downloading I'm listening and watching tons of other videos on other types of painters. But the process of painting a picture is so similar to producing a song. You start off with a canvas. There's nothing there. And you can use some of that blank canvas, that silence, as actually part of the picture. You don't have to cover everything up in a painting. And we have to do that. We have to remember that as producers, as people that are producing our songs, as silence is good. Silence is one of the best instruments you have.
Yes.
Any thoughts on that?
Silence works real good.
It does. What did you say?
I said there's a Mozart quote, I think, that was similar to that.
Oh, is there?
something like the silence is more important than the notes, or something. That's
Yeah.
a huge paraphrase, but something like that.
Yeah, and it's that silence gives you the space to create something. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say, but it's really interesting that when in painting, for instance, I'm trying to learn how to paint some trees. I want to learn how to paint trees. I want to learn how to paint clouds. I want to learn how to paint some mountains, and I want to learn how to paint some lakes and water. Those are about
Sounds
the four
like
things.
Bob Ross.
Yeah, I kind of want to learn how to paint really well those things, so that when I want to put them in, I just drop them in. I go, oh, I know, I want a mountain right here, and I know how to do it. And that's a lot like music, in that if you're creating a song, if you get really good at little guitar riffs, if you're a guitarist, and you can drop those in, and you can get some little go-to areas. And even if you're not a guitarist, maybe you use Splice, maybe you have a sample library that you can pull up anytime you need it. It's like you get good at all these little processes. And then when you start off with a blank canvas, you just drop in the processes where you need them. And you're not trying to recreate the whole thing. You're just, it's more almost like assembling. You've got a bunch of processors, and you've got a bunch of iPhone screens, and you've got some keyboards, and you're just dropping them in where you need them. You're not having to reinvent each one of those. I think it's a brilliant study, is the sort of the psychology behind putting together a song, because it can be very overwhelming at first when you first start.
Yeah, one of my tendencies is to overdo layers of whatever instruments, and I've never been a vocalist, and so when I'm making an instrumental, I'll just try to fill out whatever melody line would be in there on a vocal with some other sound or synth or instrument or something like that. And so the end product is always way too complicated, and there's too many sounds. And when I take out like over half the stuff, it sounds so much better.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And how do you know what to take out?
Try.
Yeah, you just listen. I'll often do a frequency match to see what's clashing with a vocal. So that's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'll send it out to 3 or 4 or 5 people that I know who will be brutally honest with me, like this sucks, or like this is way too busy or whatever. And so that's helpful. Other ears on it, and my tendency is to just constantly create something instead of spending an appropriate amount of time on one thing. And so I'll move on quickly from things. But I was going to say, giving it like 2 or 3 days, like take a break from it, right? Yeah. And come back to the song 2 or 3 days later, because your perspective on it will be totally different.
Yep.
And you'll hear things that you want to take out like that. I don't know what I was thinking 2 days ago, but that does not work.
Yeah. One of the best things I've ever learned is if you can't really hear something, if you think it's supposed to be in there, it's not supposed to be in there.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's layers. Like a lot of times I think, well, I need for this song, this sort of a folk or pop song, I need 3 acoustic guitars.
Yeah.
Well, you're filling up a lot of frequencies by doing that. And you're actually making the guitar sound worse because there's no definition anymore. Yeah. It's like, I can't think of a good analogy, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. You're filling up all these frequencies. If you take some of that away and only have one guitar playing, you have a lot more energy suddenly. Yeah. More doesn't mean more energy.
Yeah.
It can work.
That Neutron 2, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The visual mixer in that thing is incredible. And that helps so much when you can just totally take something out of the mix and see what it sounds like. And I'm a visual guy anyway, so like to be able to see the mix, like in front of you, is so awesome.
Yeah.
that was everything. And when I saw that it was the last office hours, I was like, oh, I got to get that right now.
Isn't that cool?
And it's the rent to own plugins deal is pretty awesome. I guess that's through Splice.
The rent
Like
to
the rent to own.
Yeah, Splice. I've never done that. Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it's like, I think it's like $15 a month until it's paid off.
Okay.
Which, yeah, I'm also kind of impulsive. Yeah. So,
we're creative. So we're impulsive.
Yeah. I've got all these fancy plugins that I don't know how to use.
Goes together.
Did you get Ozone also, Blake?
Yeah, I've had Ozone, and that was a game changer when I picked that up too.
Did you get the
adding Neutron? 8. Yeah, I've got Ozone 8.
Cool. Yeah, because I just upgraded this summer from I think 6 Ozone 6, and I was blown away by all the new features.
Yeah.
But what's so great about it?
About the new version of Ozone?
About Ozone, about Neutron.
Well, Neutron.
When you compare it to other instruments and things you can mix with because everybody is talking about Neutron and Ozone and the other thing, or is it also Ozone?
So they're both.
And you can take out the voice or take out the bass line and things like that.
So Neutron is just a really, really great tool for mixing. It's kind of like a great just utility type plugin that you can drop on every track, or you can really eat up processing and computer time, or what am I trying to say? CPU time really fast by doing that. So you've got to use it sparingly depending on your track, but it's a utility that always has it gives you a really good compressor, really good exciter, stereo width, a great EQ. It gives you dynamic EQ, which is I haven't used a whole lot before I started.
I have dynamic EQ on my phone.
Oh, have you?
Or on a plug-in, it works really, really well.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, and if you have a way of mixing real well without using Neutron, I think you should absolutely use that way. Some of the best mixers.
I love to try new things. So.
Sorry, you keep interrupting. What did you say?
I love to try new things.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I think it's great because there's a part of this. Neutron has this. When you drop it on each track, it gives you a visual mixer on the master bus that allows you to see what Neutron's doing sort of on each instrument. And then it's visual. So it's, you've got volume as your y-axis, panning as your left and right axis. But then you can grab each of your instruments and you can quickly do a stereo width and adjust the stereo width of that instrument, which to me is huge, huge, huge. I've never had a good plug-in for stereo width. I've always tried to do it sort of manually. And it's really nice because you can take a saxophone that might just be bleeding over on that vocal or something like that and just spread it out, and suddenly it sort of finds its own space without you having to define it. You see what I'm saying? And then there's a thing called the total balance control. Blake, have you used the total balance control?
I'm still figuring it out right now.
Okay.
I was messing around with the gate and the compressor today.
Well, the total balance control is another little plug-in. I don't know if it comes with Neutron, but it is even more, in my opinion, it's almost more valuable than you drop it on the master bus at the very end after Ozone.
Yes.
Yeah, it comes with it.
Okay.
And what does it do?
So it gives you an illustration. What it does is it shows you, let me show you real quick. What they've done is they've gone into thousands of songs and analyzed the total balance. We talked about this last week. You might remember this, Sem.
I've bad memory. I can't remember a lot of last week because my wife had a heart attack on,
Oh no.
but she's fine now, so she's home already.
Oh, okay. Let's see.
Still,
Is she okay?
yes, but it was quite scary because
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
we had to, the ambulance, it drove 180 kilometers an hour. I don't know how many miles that is, 150 miles an hour
Oh,
on the highway. So that they had to be that quick.
that is scary.
Yes,
But she's doing better?
yes.
That's good to hear.
She thinks she's not sick anymore.
Okay. Well,
That's part of a problem.
keep an eye on her.
Yes.
So total balance control is just something you drop on your master bus at the very end. And actually, I do this without Ozone because I want to mix my song really, really well and then render it into a separate file, and then pull it back into a session and then put Ozone on it. So I don't want to just master. I don't want to put a mastering plugin anymore on my bus until I'm ready to master. So I'm really starting to separate these two processes because it kind of waters down what you're doing a little bit. And this is just my own thinking. And also I watched another video of somebody talking about this, about just sort of the
First mix, and
first mix.
you gotta have enough headroom
Yep.
to master it really well.
Yeah, exactly. So total balance control is it's a little plug-in that shows you sort of the lows, low mids, high mids, and highs, and where your mix stacks up, and how it looks against thousands of other mixes. And it's just a way of making sure that your mix is. This is just a video.
Yes.
Advertisement video, but it basically,
I get the idea.
Yeah, you get the idea, and then you can pull up underneath it any EQ, the Ozone EQ, because it's all isotope. They all talk to each other, so you can pull up the EQ of. And if you drop this on your mixing track, let's say, or your master bus of your mix, and you had Neutron on a bunch of other tracks, you could pull up the kick track or whatever and adjust it right here and see how it affected the total balance of your entire.
Okay.
The other amazing thing about this is that it allows you to also pull in a reference and look at what that would be. So if you really like the total balance of, a song by, who knows, U2 or something like that, you could pull that in, or it could analyze an entire album of U2 and go, okay, this is the balance. This is the total balance of the average of all those songs. And I can help line up those, my balance of my mix into that space. Not only that, but do you see this little thing at the top left corner that says crest control? Crest factor? This a little knob there, and I don't know if this is going to really show you, but you'll see it kind of move. When it gets too far to the left, it means that your mix is overly dynamic. So you have room to basically compress it. Let me try to pull up a spot where you can see that moving. Crest factor. Okay, so if it gets too far to the right, it's showing you that it's too compressed. Okay. That's not going to say anything. So it gives you an idea of how compressed your mix is, and that's really good when you're starting to master, because you can.
But that's something you also can see by looking at the wave file real close.
Yeah, you can kind of tell.
when it's compressed too much, it's just all straight lines.
Yeah, exactly.
When it's too dynamic, it got
Sure, absolutely. You can kind of
big,
tell that.
big mountains in it.
Mountains and valleys. So
Yes.
it's a way of telling. Sometimes when you're, for instance, in Ozone, they have a maximizer as one of the last, a maximizer and a limiter or whatever, and the last part of Ozone, and you can tell, or that's where you make those big adjustments to really squish the track, to really compress it, or to really limit it. And if you're overdoing that, and thankfully, these streaming services like Spotify and Apple Music and stuff, they don't require you to be, they actually don't want you to be extremely squished, extremely compressed, which kills the emotion of the song.
Yes.
So there, last week we talked about this LUFS. Have you heard of that, guys?
Uh-uh.
Okay. LUFS is something that you need to kind of be aware of, and it is in Ozone. When you have Ozone, normally it says the RMS, which is over on the right, which is I can't remember what it stands for.
Yeah, I know what
it's kind of like the average decibel level for your track, and I think it's measuring it in peaks. So anyway, the LUFS is the new standard for that, and you want to make sure your LUFS. It doesn't have to. It's a perceived loudness of your track. So back in the day, there was the loudness wars, the great loudness wars of the 19th century, which carried over into this century.
20th century, you mean?
Yeah, whatever. You're right. But those loudness wars, everybody was trying to be louder than the last song, so that if they're on the radio and your song comes up and it's a little louder, it might catch people's attention. Well, people took that to an extreme, and it just ruined music for a while, for quite a long time, until these streaming services came out. And now Spotify has a standard. Let's see what the standard is. Streaming services, LUFS. But the great thing about that is they basically said, hey, we're tired of all these songs being squished. They're so squished that we're going to just tell everybody, you know what? I don't care how loud your song is. We're going to move your song to a level. And I think for Spotify, it's like -14 LUFS. Yeah, -14. So if a track has a loudness of -8 LUFS, Spotify will decrease the volume of that track. If the track is -23 LUFS, the volume will be increased. So they put it, this is great news, basically. It encourages artists to make their music more dynamic and less compressed. If you're a producer, writer, or artist, you've heard of the loudness wars. This is a perfect article about this. So I'm gonna link this to the group. But this is awesome news because it allows your music to breathe. When I first started producing, it was part of those loudness wars. And anytime I produced a song, and I played it back for somebody, it was always so quiet compared to other professional mixed and mastered songs. So I started getting professional mastering engineers to crank that thing and slam it against the ceiling. And it was terrible. I never liked the sound of it. It would hurt my sound, but it would get the volume up. So the point of all that is just to say that in Ozone, we got more kids. Yay! That's awesome. So all that is just to say that in Ozone now, they have an LUFS meter, and you don't have to use Ozone. There are other mastering plugins and other spectrometers, I guess they call those, that allow you to see what your LUFS is in your mix, your final mix or your master, without so that you can gauge. It doesn't have to be exactly -14 when you submit it, but when it goes to Spotify, it'll be really close, and they'll adjust that LUFS slightly to make sure you get on point. So Blake, that's kind of something that I wanted to make sure you know about, because it's great news, and Ozone 8 lets you see that now.
That's cool. Yeah, that's great. I'm still learning that plugin as well.
Yep. Let me just show you this here. Now, Julie, did you know anything about this? Had you heard about this? Uh-oh, we can't.
When she started talking about it with the Spotify thing, I had read something recently about it. Because I was always leaving a ceiling of 0.2 or whatever that, you know.
Right, yeah.
Play was. So.
And in the past, we'd always have to do that. We'd have to, you know, you want just it right up to the ceiling as much as possible. But now, here's just a, you can see the LUFS over here on the right indicates what it's some kind of perceived, it's a really complicated algorithm apparently, but it's a perceived loudness. So it's not measured specifically by just a decibel level, it's a perception.
It's not in the DAWs like Ableton and Logic and Cubase, or
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
It's new. It's a new standard that just came out. Now they'll probably integrate those in. So you're probably onto something, Sem. They'll probably start putting those onto your master bus that you can start seeing. That's a great question. Yeah. Look in your DAW and see if you can find anything about that.
And maybe there's a plugin for it.
Yeah. And I saw another YouTube video of a guy mastering with a different he was using a different tool, and he could measure the LUFS with that. But I love that they built it into Ableton or into Ozone. There's also this master assistant button in Ozone, which is great because it gives you a starting point. It'll listen to your song and apply some equalizers, dynamics, dynamic EQ, exciter, maximizer, limiting. It applies stuff that it kind of gives you a starting point, and actually is pretty dang amazing. Every time I've used it, I'm like, whoa, that sounds so much better. So there's a bunch of magic and wizardry going on, but anyway, I hope that helps a little bit.
You know, Sem, what I would say about, oh, sorry, Julie. What I would say about it is, like, the way it's helped me is I could take the time to do all that stuff, but a plugin is doing it for me. A lot, and especially like the master assistant thing. It'll give me suggestions of what's peaking where, and then I can go in, and if I don't like the suggestions, I can tweak the suggestions too. But it's just like, so like you're saying, that it's such a great starting.
It's a lot faster.
And it's a lot faster. Yeah.
Yes.
And if you, you know, if you want, I think the Neutron is like, you can try it for free for 3 days. And so you could give it a shot, and
that's a really short
it's
time.
like a monthly thing. So if you don't like it after a month, you've only spent like $20.
Did you say 3 days or 30 days?
3 days on Neutron. At least I think that was when I just picked it up. It said 3 days. But yeah, but even then, rent to own, it's like $20 a month. So if you don't like it after a month.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. And you know, for some, I know that when I first started out, I wasn't really interested in mixing and mastering. I just wanted to mix it the best I could within my DAW and then send it over to somebody with all these tools. And for some of you guys, that may be the perfect answer for now. But as you get it more into this, you may be, that process of getting your stuff to a mixing engineer and then getting it to a mastering engineer and scheduling that time can sometimes take weeks and months and drag out any.
Yes,
it's a
I hate that.
Expensive. So to be able to do a lot of this stuff yourself, and basically, I want you guys to be more and more empowered so that you have those options at your fingertips, and you go, you know what, I can put this out so I can get into that search that's coming up. There's a new search on, you know, spring or colors or whatever, and I can write a song real quick and get it good enough to get into the search. And then same day even, yeah.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago, I submitted a song for this Umbrella song. I think I told you guys about it, but I did the entire thing in 1 week, and it went all the way to it was one of the finalists in the search. I don't know if I got it. They're still out there. I don't know if it did it, but the fact that my licensing agent loved it, and they submitted it, and the music supervisor of the ad loved it, and I did it all from my computer.
Yeah.
It wasn't. I never sent it off. I never sent it to a mixing engineer. I did it all right here, and I'm not a professional mixing and mastering engineer.
It's a great tune too, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
I really enjoy that one.
Thanks, guys.
Were you going to say something, Julie, before I so rudely interrupted you?
We talked at the same time. It wasn't. But anyway, when I saw last week's the video from last week with the Neutron and all that, I mean, I really like the mixing. I like all that analysis and all that geeky stuff. And I've been so frustrated because I always am too muddy and the mids are all off kilter and I'm like, oh, I got to get my ears trained. And then I saw that thing. I'm like, wait a minute. Are you telling me when I send this to dude, he just got the thing and the thing does the stuff? And oh, I should get the thing.
Well, that total balance control is kind of new. Most really good mixing and mastering engineers, they're just using their ears. You know, they're listening to they have listened to so many songs that if they're good at what they do, that when you send it, they can immediately tell, oh, that's way too, bright in those 2K area or whatever. And they immediately kind of know where to start because they have a reference. And they're usually using a studio that's consistent, that's been tuned. So at the end of the day, your ears always trump anything you could ever see.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what you're seeing could completely mislead you.
But what you hear can also mislead you.
It sounds good.
Doing like 6-hour session. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Get a little tired, take a break, come back.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, and that's so important, isn't it?
Yeah.
I have to sometimes put my mix away and don't listen to it for several days and then come back to it and go, oh my God, that sucks. Or, oh, that's pretty good,
Yeah.
One of the times that Bill Loeffler was on one of the interviews, I can't remember if it was the Access class or the RE one, but that was my question is how do you keep your ears fresh? And he's like, yeah, I get to a logical stopping point, and then 2 days later or 3 days later, I'll come back and start making decisions.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Chelsey, do you have any questions?
Sorry, I've been like warring with my computer literally this whole time. It's been like your face was in the like very top corner of my screen and it was like cutting out. So I'm finally back, but I heard some of it.
Okay, no
it's
problem.
all a little bit over my head at the moment because I'm still working on getting my DAW and also,
No worries. I'm just glad you're here.
Yeah, me too. Thanks. I mean, I get the stuff you're saying. It's just like I need to physically do it in order to learn it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
Yeah.
If I can say one last thing, and I want to encourage you guys, if you have 2 hours a week, can you designate 2 hours to get messy? To get messy in your production, just block out a time, a Tuesday morning and a Wednesday, evening or whatever it is. And allow yourself to just dig into tools and play around and tweak and try things and get messy without worrying about trying to make a song. If that's the time you want to use to make a groove, that's awesome too. But I just want to make sure you guys are giving yourself room to get messy, get dirty. This is where you learn.
Yeah.
Can you guys do 2 hours a week?
Yeah.
I do more.
Okay. Good.
Actually, one of my goals for this year. It takes me a long time to transition from one way of thinking to the other. I'm just now coming around.
Yeah, good. Well, that's great, Julie. It's awesome. It's exciting to me because the more we stop fearing getting messy, fearing perfection, fearing presenting something, the better and the faster we're going to get better. This doesn't have to be years and years of dragging yourself through a ditch. But I'm not saying that this is something you can learn overnight, but this doesn't have to be an arduous process. Just requires you to get dirty, get some paint on your fingers and in your hair, get in there and paint.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. Does anybody have any final questions or thoughts before we go?
What's your opinion on using headphones instead of monitor speakers?
That's a great question.
A lot of people do that nowadays.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the best scenario is to do both. I get very accurate and very surgical when I'm using headphones. I can really hear a vocalist's nuance or any kind of little artifacts in the recording that I need to take out. I can do that a lot better in headphones. There's something about just the intimacy of that.
Yes.
That being said, for the overall mix and how things are presented to me, I can't get. Maybe I've got a really good pair of headphones that are designed for very flat mixing. They're Shure SRH 940s.
All right. I got a Sennheiser HD 600 or something like that.
Oh, is that what you have?
Yeah, that's an open headphone. So that's better for mixing and mastering.
Okay.
When you're producing and recording, you gotta have a closed one.
But to have open headphones is better for mixing and mastering?
Yes.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why.
Because it gives less pressure on your in your ears. How do you call it? I don't know what it's called in English, but
We'll say it in Dutch.
The part in your ears which picks up the sound.
Yeah, the eardrum.
Yeah, the eardrum. It's the same in Holland.
Okay.
But then the Dutch word.
How do you say it in Dutch?
Trommelvlies.
Trommelvlies.
Trommel is drum.
Oh, tommel.
Trommel. I think that's where the word comes from.
That's cool. So yeah, I definitely am a fan of monitors, or studio monitors, your speakers. By the way, studio monitors is another way of saying speakers.
Yes, I know.
Just always want to make sure people realize I'm not talking about the screen.
I took your lessons about how about making your studio sound good.
Oh, good.
Today. So I watched all those lessons. So
excellent. I hope that helps.
Yes, but it's going to be a problem to make these rooms good.
Yeah,
because they're all quite small. So
and the one I'm in actually is pretty small. It's not very big, but you got to make it work. You got to figure out a way to make it work.
Yes.
All right, guys. Happy producing this week. Please let me know if you have any questions. I'm always available, email or text. And if it's a quick phone call, I can always jump on the horn and talk to you for a minute.
A minute.
Well, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Good to see you guys. Great to see you finally, Blake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Appreciate everything. It's really cool.
Absolutely. Glad you're here.
Yeah.
Sam, it's good to see you. See you later, guys.
All right.
All right. Bye.